Do you guys ever feel, like, bad for Villager? For as long as the Super Smash Bros. Franchise has had two titles to rub together, people have talked about the ways fighters have changed over time. I mean, just from Smash 4 to Ultimate, you got Ganondorf getting a facelift and a sword, Brawler getting a whole bunch of new special moves, Ryu learning how to teleport with his knees, and then you look over at Villager and... well, it's not like that at all. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Villager. He was my first main, all the way back in the 3DS demo of Smash 4. And while I ended up defecting to Mario after that, and Tesco Mario after that, through it all, I never lost my love for his unique style of gameplay. So when Villager returned for Ultimate basically untouched, I was naturally pretty excited about that fact. And with a new lease on the meta, I was optimistic that he'd get his day in the sun. You see, Villager had his moments in Smash 4, placing extremely well in some of its earliest major tournaments, but as sword fighters became more prominent and as newer, f***ed-uppier DLC found its way into Smash 4, Villager got pushed further and further down on the tier list until he was eventually out of the meta for his own game. And I do mean his game, because to my disappointment, Ultimate is definitely not his game. Villager debuted at 69th on the first official tier list for Ultimate, and that was his high point. He has only gone down since. It's only been getting clearer that this whole thing, it's not gonna cut it anymore. A character built on jump-stifling horizontal projectiles is not being set up for success when jump speeds are buffed across the board and the target goes from Bowser to an 800-pound grown tube. Not only did Ultimate's landscape render Villager's toolkit less effective, it also gave him a semi-clone in Isabelle, who, after taking all the anti-airs in the divorce, provides a very good demonstration of what works and makes it woefully obvious that Villager doesn't. There's not a better way to say it. Villager feels like a relic of the past. I love him like a son, but man, how do I reconcile the fact that my son peaked in high school? So, in attempts to reconcile my absence as a parent, I gave my dogshit son another chance to disappoint me. Don't worry, buddy. I'll always be there for you. I'm finally coming home. Villager is a zoner. No subversion, no caveats, this is just a zoner, through and through. The bulk of his gameplay is spent playing keep away from the opponent using his forwards and backwards aerials, which are pretty much the same move except one of them is better.
You need to be able to explain what the difference between and is, or I'm going to burn the building down.
Slingshot isn't a complicated move, but it's important to note that the closer Villager is to the opponent, the more powerful it becomes, which lets it be both a strong kill move and a reliable pestering tool, sometimes both at the same time. So my first few days playing Villager was largely spent doing this. Slingshot. A lot. And often. Do not let them jump, ever. And issues with this strategy presented themselves nearly immediately. A lot of the time, Villy needs to be preemptive with his slingshot, meaning he has to jump first. Otherwise, this can happen. And if the opponent ends up not jumping into the pellet, then now they can run under you. And why wouldn't they? Villager is one of the slowest falling characters in the entire game, which means a bad slingshot is going to give just the widest possible opening for the opponent to... Sure, Villager can still move around in the air, and he has a couple of fast-acting attacks to get out of scrambles, but that alone isn't going to stop people from running in without a second thought. And that's where Villager's second projectile comes into play. Lloyd Rocket. Lloyd has a lot of functions, all of which we're not going to be able to cover in one go, but it's primarily designed to be a defensive measure for Villager. The first thing it does is cover the ground, which it is fantastic at. It absorbs projectiles, deals a little knockback on contact, and deals a lot of knockback if someone punches it too hard. Get one of these things out before you start slingshotting, and all of a sudden, that free path to get under Villager starts to look a lot more like an obstacle course. If they stand there, Lloyd hits. If they jump, Slingshot hits. If they shield or roll, take note of that and reach a little deeper into your dumbass bag of tricks for the next time. Lloyd and Slingshot work with each other exceptionally well, but Side B isn't one of those moves that can be chucked out whenever. Nah, this one requires a little something that a brawler player like me hates. Setup. While the rocket itself spawns in on frame 1, it takes nearly an entire second for the move to actually start moving and dealing damage. This provides another huge timing window for the opponent to close in with, which means that using this thing when the opponent is right next to you might as well be announcing, "I have 0 spatial awareness. Come bash my skull into the nearest rock so I can be punished for my hubris. I do not believe other minds exist." But should Villager find the time to get the move out without getting spanked, he'll be rewarded with a situation where the opponent has very few places to exist without being forced to defend themselves. And that's something that's reflected in a lot of his attacks, you know? Constantly judging how much time he has to gain access to a powerful tool or to create an oppressive situation. Does Villager have the time to plant, water, and chop a tree at ledge before his opponent gets back on stage? Or should he opt for something a bit faster, like a bowling ball? Does he have the time and space to jump out there and start using Slingshot? Or are they so close to the ledge that he should stand back and wait it out? These questions exist in some way on every character, but Villager in particular is always going to have something to do to make use of his time. And in matchups where the character is so slow that they struggle to stop him from setting up much of his stuff at all, these tools become extremely powerful. Sincerely, I have never had an easier time against heavyweights than when I was playing as this guy. It barely even mattered what buttons I pressed, because there was a 90% chance one of them was gonna be save replay. But in matchups where the opponent has the speed to close in, or the range to hit past Villager's wall of projectiles, or options to outright negate his neutral tools, things can get a little difficult. In case it wasn't obvious, this list contains most matchups. Most of the cast has at least one of these things. I encountered so many characters where I just did not know what I could do. Shulk has enough range to where it's nearly impossible to put up any wall that'll actually prevent his sword from reaching you. Meta Knight dash attacks the second you slack off and then edge guards you for 15 more seconds. Falco disables half of Villager's toolkit by pressing one button and then throws out the most incontestable combo starters of all time. And don't even get me started on what happens against Mithra. She rolls in on a single pellet and you might as well be teleported straight to the result screen. And speaking of feeling helpless, holy moly, Villager is a sitting duck when he's getting wailed on. Being as slow and as floaty as he is becomes a huge liability when the opponent is waiting for your eventual return to ledge, what with this pacifist-assed up special. Villager's entire disadvantage state off stage is pretty much relegated to a survival game. In very rare circumstances where the opponent is exhibiting dangerous levels of hubris, he might find his way to a cheeky stock. But pretty much any player worth their salt is going to know to wait for him to commit to Balloon Trip. That's not to say he's without options, they're just a bit conditional. Which leads us to Villager's second projectile, Lloyd Rocket. Using a Lloyd Rocket near ledge is Villager's best means of self-defense when recovering. Pop one of these, air dodge to ledge, and boom, he's home free. Where he can do... honestly, this part kind of sucks too, but at least he can actually hit the opponent from here. Look, Villager isn't exactly built for a quick escape. It is a huge adjustment to go from Brawler, who is either going to escape or die in 2 seconds, to a character whose entire disadvantage state feels like I'm slowly bleeding out. So if all of this stuff complicates Villager's survival, then what is Villager built to take advantage of? Well... Villager's floatiness and setup-based approach might make neutral a bit of a struggle, but it enables his edgeguarding to be among the most persistent in the game, which isn't actually the greatest trade-off. Now, I don't mean that Villager can't edgeguard. What he can do to someone off stage is truly disgusting. It's just that, due to how forgiving some characters' recoveries can be, edgeguarding isn't often the best thing for a character to be good at. But that's a generalized statement. And in the matchups where the opponent's means of getting back on stage are, shall we say, exploitable, this can get real fun. Villager has so many tools for intercepting recoveries that it can genuinely be a bit overwhelming. Use Slingshot to clip the opponent's jump as soon as it comes out. Use Dash Attack to be a threat without going off stage. Intercept the recovery route with Nair, wait for them to get near ledge and spike them with down air. I said spike them with down air, thank you. And thanks to Villager being a slower faller than nearly everybody, he can not only threaten these options by going off stage, but maintain that threat by staying above them virtually all the time. And he doesn't even have to go off stage to get his kills either. He has plenty of ledge trapping options too. Like we said before, Villager's greatest resource is time, and he never has more of it than when his opponent is actively trying to recover. Here's an example of what I mean. I'm playing against this Diddy Kong. I knock him away with a forward tilt and use the brief pause to plant a sapling. A bit later, he dash attacks my shield and finds himself off stage. He immediately rockets back to ledge and rolls into the sapling at the same time I'm watering it, and puts his shield up in a panic. Unfortunately for him, I didn't water it enough. So I immediately close in for a grab and push him off stage again. Remembering how quick he was to get back on last time, I decide to finish watering the sapling, turning it into a tree, catching his monkey flip, which kills him at 75. What? Villager's moveset is, unfortunately, built for another game. But that doesn't mean I think his moves are boring. In fact, Villager's toolkit is probably the second most fun I've had with any character, and I want to go out of my way to shout out a bunch of these moves individually. Starting with the first thing a lot of people think of when it comes to Villager, Pocket. Pocket is basically a reflector with extra steps. Unlike a normal reflector, which immediately sends the item or projectile back, Villager basically gets to store whatever it is he just took and then use it later in whatever situation he finds suitable. Sounds pretty useless against a character without a projectile to grab, right? Well, no. Since Villager can sneakily flip his air momentum around by B-reversing Pocket, the move ends up being a pretty effective tool for mixing up his landing. The move also comes with a frankly staggering amount of invincibility, turning Pocket into a bit of a pseudo-air dodge. A pretty cool way to add utility to this move, but come on. We're all here for the cheese that comes from holding a ball of plasma in your hand. I am a total sucker for moves that create hyper-specific interactions, and Pocket fits the mold of that perfectly. Pocketing certain things like header will permanently disable it for the user. A pocketed charge shot from Samus is strong enough to kill her from virtually anywhere at any percent. I don't even know what I grabbed from Sora, but he died at a low percent, so I love it anyways. Because of how devastating Villager's Pocket can be, it can end up single-handedly flipping a few matchups in Villager's favor. Even for the ones where it doesn't, being able to throw random bullshit back at the opponent is never not fun. Up air and down air. Gamble more! These turnip aerials are one of Villager's more flexible attacks, but it's not necessarily the most reliable. Basically, each time either of these moves are used, Villager will randomly pull 1, 2, or 3 turnips, the number of which affect the attack's size and strength, ranging from a pathetic dot on my screen to will actually just kill at 80. It can be pretty annoying to get a single when trying to close out a stock, but seeing as single turnip aerials only have a 30% chance to appear, and they're not so weak as to be completely useless, I think getting lowballed sometimes is worth the dopamine spikes that come with the randomness. Beyond the RNG, up air acts as a reliable tool for catching out a landing opponent, and down air is a spike with a reasonably powerful sour spot. Both moves are disjointed and stay out for a surprising amount of time, so they're pretty forgiving if you happen to be a bit off the mark. Lloyd Rocket! Yeah, I'm actually not done talking about this move. Outside of its uses in neutral and disadvantage, it also lets Villager ride it if he continues to hold down the B button, which also makes the move significantly stronger. This is strategically not the best choice to make, since Villager goes into freefall after jumping off, as well as exposing him to just getting hit and dying. But what a surprising amount of players forget is that Villager can actually control his ride's speed by moving forwards or back. Switching between these two speeds mid-flight radically messes with the opponent's sense of timing and can result in some very cheesy kills, but as long as they get out of the Lloyd's line of sight, there's really nothing for them to worry about. Also make sure you jump off it if it ever gets reflected, because otherwise this will happen. Beyond that, Lloyd can also act as a combo breaker due to the fact that it spawns on frame 1. It won't get Villager out of every combo, but even the brief pause it gives to him in the air can be enough to mess with the combo and cause an early drop. Lloyd is probably the most versatile move in Villager's kit, and I can't imagine that I've found everything out that there is to know about it. Forward smash! This is basically Game & Watch's smash attack. Only this one also goes off stage. I have fond memories of playing on Smashville during the Wii U days and doing nothing but spamming forward smash off the moving platform. It didn't win me any games, but the idea of someone dying at 40 to a projectile etched something into my brain that never really went away. It's a good tool against slower vulnerable recoveries, or against players who tend to rush in a lot, so always keep an eye out for where it's usable. Up tilt. Now, up tilt is largely overshadowed by the strength and combo potential of Villager's up smash. And believe me, it's a pretty nuts up smash that can serve to alleviate a lot of Villager's troubles with jump spammers, but I still like up tilt more on a personal level. It's a dinky stick swing that is a deceptively useful kill move in anti-air, since it makes Villager's entire head invincible. Yeah, not too much to say about this one, honestly, it's just fun to shake a stick. Timber. First of all, awesome name! That's Timber, 10 out of 10, no notes. Timber is a fascinating move. Probably the most setup intense move on Villager's kit, if not in the game. The amount of decisions that can be made about this move alone is mind-blowing. First, there's the issue of where to plant the sapling, which Villager can then water to turn it into a tree, or only water it partway so that the next time the opponent stands over it, any water will make it erupt nearly instantly and send them flying with a ton of knockback. Once the tree is up, Villager can hack away at it to turn it into an extremely big and powerful projectile, or only cut it once on either side to prime the threat, or let it stand and absorb attacks from the opponent like Lloyd can, or use the axe as a fast and powerful kill move, or ram into it later with a Lloyd ride to give him a free escape, or switch between any of these decisions as the situation around him changes in real time. Oh my god, I'm not gonna be able to speak tomorrow. The possibilities with this move are endless, and even if the goal is just to do damage, it still accomplishes that very well. I'll tell ya, nothing is more addicting than dealing 40% in half a second. Now, despite all the praise I gave this moveset, Villager is still a victim of power creep. He used to be the poster child of zoner with a fast defensive button for some reason, back when that was about as radical of an idea as it should be. But after another 14 or so characters were crammed into that same niche, he's struggled to justify having a unique place in the meta. Unless something really big happens, Villager's unfortunately lost most of his viability. But he never gave up his identity. By purely personal fun value, Villager scores much higher than pretty much every other zoner for me. And a big reason for that is that he's still the same little cornball I fell in love with over a decade ago. And even if he's not the dependable powerhouse keep weight character he used to be, he'll always have a place in my heart. And in my hands, or like, just hand. Okay, I don't have a better place to put this, but I messed up my right hand a little bit ago and decided to play Villager in tournament with this grip. And not only did I win a set, it also gave me my first ever shield break in tournament. I'm taking the dependable thing back, actually. Thank you for helping me in my time of need, you little freak.